So everybody is on that, FOMO, right? Fear of losing out on AI. But
Mhm.
but nobody's really stepping back and thinking, okay, what do I want to achieve with it? What do I need to fix right now so that when I do implement AI efficiencies, it works, right? And they're not receiving the results that they're expecting to receive. So then they drop AI saying it's not working for us. But what they don't understand that it's not the not working, it's what's foundationally wrong inside the organization. That so you have to look into these 3 Ps, and that's actually my framework.
Loreta, I'm really glad to have you here as a guest here. We've been talking for over a year now, different things going on in business, and you are my go-to strategic advisor about using AI effectively, right? So this is going to be a good conversation. And I saw that you won an award recently for the top 50 women leaders. How did that come about?
It's all. Thank you, first of all, for having me, Kirk. Yes, it's been a year, and we were trying to get our schedules aligned to make this podcast happen. So I'm glad that it's finally happening. It's always humble to be selected for an award. And I got reached out by the organization, and they identified me as one of the top leaders and influencers in the marketing space, and that's how I got awarded. It's I never, we just talked about cultural differences. I never consider myself out loud being somebody out there influential and doing impactful things, but when you are quiet and but you get noticed by somebody doing that, then it's just a much more, I guess, powerful reward internally to receive that.
You got it because you actually earned it versus pounding your own drum and that kind of stuff. I know you're a
Exactly.
very, very modest person.
Yes, I tend to be, given my background in Lithuania. I grew up in Lithuania, and one of the first cultural differences when I moved here to the United States was noticing how people, back then I would say boast about themselves, but probably right now I realize it's more just showing the authority that you have built through your experiences out loud. It took me several years to claim, the authority through being former news anchor back in Lithuania, through working in broadcast TV, owning those skills and putting them out there. And once I started doing that, I could see the difference in people's sort of perceptions around me. But it definitely is cultural. I tend to get used to the idea of claiming something before I actually say it out loud.
In all fairness, like you can meet somebody that you could really help, and vice versa. Somebody could really help you. And if both parties aren't speaking up, like, hey, this is what I was born to do, and this is what I'm really good at, then potentially both parties go a different way and don't have, wow, your life could have been better,
Yeah.
even better kind of stuff. So yeah, cultures are very interesting. And we've been talking about companies, private business owners coming into AI, and what we're seeing, I'm seeing very like ad hoc, fragmented approaches at best involve companies putting all their private information into a third-party app, and who knows, right? Kind of stuff. Oh, new shiny object. So I was excited about having this conversation about, does AI make us more effective, or is it just contributing to chaos? I mean, where are you coming in? If we kind of frame the conversation, how are you thinking about that?
If you're putting AI on a chaos, is going to create more chaos. That's kind of where I stand. As we have learned so far in these, 3 years or so, with AI, LLM specifically being part of our lives, and pretty much every other company now calling themselves AI company, we learned that AI likes systems, likes procedural things, likes clarity. And a lot of organizations, when they were founded, they did not think AI is going to be the future. So as the company grows, as we know, when you're expanding, these little pockets of silos start happening, disjointness. Oh, we're going to fix it later. Oh, we're going to address that later. The data, integrity becomes diluted. So now the companies, large organizations especially, are putting AI layer on top of this disorganized infrastructure, and they're not receiving the results that they're expecting to receive. So then they drop AI saying it's not working for us. But what they don't understand that it's not the not working, it's what's foundationally wrong inside the organization that first needs to be fixed, streamlined, prepared for AI before we add AI layer to actually achieve that efficiency, achieve that faster go to market, or whatever the goals are, depending which department you put that AI layer into, to actually make the AI work for you.
Okay, that's really something. So you say, hey, based on how people work, there's this disconnect. It doesn't take very long. When you get two people, you start seeing some kind of disconnect. Then if they've been around, organization's been around for a while, different silos, data not reconciled, and then put AI is
Yeah. What do you want me to do with it right now?
What am I working with here? Okay, let's go into, so what needs to be in place? Let's go a level deeper. What needs to be in place for AI to be like more effective, really useful?
Yes. So from my perspective, and let's maybe limit the conversation to a marketing communications function, because that's my world. I come from that background. I look first at the presence of the company and where AI could fit to help elevate that presence, within the marketing communications department function. But when I work with organizations, I look much deeper. I don't limit my view only to a micro department, because
Hmm.
what marketing communications function does is affected by IT department, by finance, from budget perspective, by all these other departments that make that whole work. So back to your question, what needs to get done? First, before you even implement any AI layer, you have to identify and ask yourself, okay, do I have the right people in place to achieve those results? Do I have the right processes in place that will help me sort of get the most out of AI? And what is the presence that I want to achieve by implementing AI externally, right? What is this AI solution supposed to give me as a goal, as a result? Right. So you have to look into these three P's, and that's actually my framework: people, process, and presence. That's how I look at it. So let's say you have the right people in place, right? So you identify some of the team members who are really technologically advanced, have passion, they can do it. Then you say, okay, what is the process that we want to implement this AI in? Is that process documented? Let's imagine the sales, for example, journey, right? Or I should say customer journey. And if we implement AI on the website, how does that impact the call to action, the sales item, right? Because ultimately we want to sell. Now, if you put AI solution, and I'm not talking about chatbots, I'm talking a little bit more elaborately, right? When we put AI solution onto the website, for example, we want that AI to actually give the information to the customer in real time, because customers are used to doing their research on their own. They don't necessarily want to talk to you, to a salesperson, and be upsold onto something that they're not ready to buy yet, especially in B2B market. And that's where my world is, B2B. So you don't necessarily want to talk to the salesperson right away. You want to do your own research. You want to understand the product or the solution you're
Hmm.
buying into. And then when you're ready to push that trigger, you want to, pick up the phone and talk to somebody in person, right? So what does that, from AI perspective, journey look like? So if you're implementing a solution on the website and you connect all the backend information to access, let's say, what's that technology about? It's being fed from the back core of the company, right? Have immediate sort of interactive answers back and forth so that the customer can engage on your platform and get all the answers they need. What's that next step of call to action? In order for this activity to take place, you really need to know what your customer journey looks like, how they interact with your information, how do you find them to begin with? Is website the right platform to implement that solution or not? Maybe they don't even go to websites. Maybe they hang out on Reddit or Substack or all these other platforms that they might not even need that solution to be on the website to begin with. So you have to really understand your own processes, document them, and then look at it. Okay, if I have a clear process, can we efficiently add a layer to it? Assuming that there's going to be a human element looking at everything, looking at outputs, tweaking, training it further to deliver those results. Because you don't just want to put it on and say, we don't need humans anymore, because that's where companies lose the most effectiveness. They remove the human element and then they get some clutter out of AI, and then they realize, okay, that didn't work. So, and there's no human actually who can vet the information anymore.
Yeah, so let me mirror that back to you. So you're saying on the process side, literally, whatever form people keep their processes, really clean it up. Make sure they understand the customer experience. Where is the customer? How do they want to interact before they get on the phone with somebody? You take that first step. So,
And that's just
that's
one
where
of
it's
the
something.
examples. The
Yeah.
process, the importance of the process, documenting the process is across the board. Be it if you're in manufacturing, you have to know how your manufacturing, works. What are the steps in the process is through quality control, through everything, right? Where AI could take on certain tasks, right? I use the customer journey as an example, but there's so many
Yeah.
other applications, where the process is important.
That manufacturing, when a new client or customer signs up, what experience they get, where they really, that first 90 days is really important for a lot of customers, especially in the B2B area. But it goes back to the fundamentals, right? Where almost like the Michael Hammer, the re-engineering, make sure the process is good, right? And then that's what you're going to build into the AI is what I'm hearing. And then that's one out of the three key components. If we keep drilling, because I mean, I don't know, I've been building businesses 30 years. A lot of people are not process orientated.
No, they're not.
And then, so we'll go back to the people part of it. What would keep a person from saying, okay, first step, let me just lay this out and like get rid of all the low hanging, prune the branches that are not good in my process, focus on what really worked. What would keep the person from embracing that type of guidance?
Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because, like I alluded earlier, companies were not built thinking this way. So now that we have to go back and step back and fix that foundational stuff first, it's very difficult. It's like almost, it's very hard work. But in order for AI to make sense, you have to do that hard work, unfortunately. Because if you don't do it, you're not going to be able to achieve the results that you want to achieve through AI. So it's very difficult to, motivate employees, right? It almost has to be a strategic decision on a C-suite level that this is what we need as a company to do moving forward. It's not a tactical quarterly approach. What do we want out of AI long term? What's the first step we need to do? What's in the first year, sort of trial and error, right? What's the pilot program? What's the second year, third year? How do we progress into AI solutions? But in order for that to happen, you have to fix the infrastructure. You have to almost look at the organizational structure from a different perspective as well. Let's say if you have a customer support service line and there's 10 people working in it, if we remove, out of 10 people's tasks, let's say if they have 10 tasks every day to achieve, if we remove one, what can they do with the time left from that one task, in the day? Are we achieving the results or not? So you have to start looking completely differently into how you're structuring teams, how you equip teams to even use AI, because you can't expect just a flip of the switch and say, hey, here's AI. Now everybody's supposed to be very fluent in this new tool. And that's where resistance happens, right? Because people are, could be, I don't know, people who really have hard time adopting new technologies. It becomes fearful. It becomes it's almost like a resentment for them. Why did you do this to me? I can do things in my Excel much faster than learn this new tool to do it for me. So leaders have to start understanding that they have to shape the way they think about people inside the organization, the expectations, and also allocate the time for learning curve. Knowing that this time will be lost time in their primary jobs, the primary tasks, I should say, that they have to achieve on a daily basis. So it's a mindset shift as well that needs to happen inside the organizations. And in my view, my personal opinion, it has to be top down. Yes, sometimes, bottoms up sort of campaigning and activities make sense, but then you're stuck with only one sort of pilot program that's not on an organizational level. So it has to be thought about AI strategically, not necessarily just tactically.
Yeah, this type of change, this is like electricity. This type of change is not going to come. Bottom up might initiate the idea, but bottom up is not going to lead the organization to be effective.
Exactly.
What you're describing. And so we're talking about the leader, right? Where they understand this, they create some kind of vision, and you're describing they create space. So your people are going to need, like, not just once, but time built into the week to learn this, test it out, where it starts to feel safe. And I would add to that, like, you're an example, you have 10 people doing a certain role. Hey, company, we're not going to eliminate the 10 people. But the minute they think their job is threatened, resistance comes on versus being proactive and responsive. What's going to happen is we're going to double and triple the size of the company. We're just not going to add any more people over here. You got 10 people, and we have 10 people that are doing even better, right? Where you can support a company doing 3 times more revenue. And what does that mean from economics? Like, how much money's coming in where there's resources to make more investments in the company and elevate people, compensation or whatever else matters to the people environment. That kind of message, like, oh, maybe it's okay to get outside my comfort zone, crawl, walk, run.
Yeah. And also, especially in large organizations, what I believe might start happening, those employees, and we know that, startup versus 30-year-old, 40-year-old, company are two different mindsets, right? So as a company grows, it starts imploding, a lot more bureaucracy. the company slows down versus when you're a startup, you just want to get things done fast, quick, right? And especially when you're in growth stage, you also see the ability, the opportunity to improve processes so that your growth does not stall. So if we compare these different stages of the companies, the largest organizations in the industry, those are the ones that I feel will have an opportunity to, once the foundations are fixed, once they look at everything from a structural perspective, I think the people who, I should say, hide to just collect the paycheck inside those large organizations will be very obviously displayed, because they most likely will be the most resistant to change, but there will be no opportunity anymore to hide, because if you're not performing anymore, you're pretty much out. So the companies will probably prioritize who they keep inside the organization that will continue taking them forward. I know it's a harsh thing to say, but to your point that you mentioned earlier, it's not about adding more people. It's keeping the ones or hiring the ones that have that mindset of growth, innovation, change, and are able to deliver and adopt these new tools that will help the company scale and grow further.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and say the next part. You said it, but let's just say it for what it is. Yes, the people, there's always some kind of 80-20, something going on. Some people, no matter what you do, no matter how much space there is, no matter how good the leadership is, they are not going to move. Crawl, walk, run, they're not going to take that step. You got to let those people go, because they will hold as much as they can. They will hold the organization back, which is not good for anybody else, and it's not good for how in the marketplace, how are we doing, right? So yes, if you're going into this, think about how to really be effective in AI. Just know you can do the math, almost like if you're doing a D-Day World War II invasion, some percent are not going to make it off the beach.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because that's their, if we're doing our leadership the way we know how to do, the way you describe, it's their free choice not to move forward in the world. But it doesn't mean that they get to stay in the organization holding everyone else back. You just in a natural, respectful way, prune those branches and reinvest in the people who want to be remarkable.
Yeah. And there's obviously, how should I say, a generational thing as well, right? And when I say generational, the interesting part is, and I don't know if you've observed that, Kirk, but I'm noticing that Gen Zers, for example, they're really resistant to AI. They're like, we don't care about AI. And that's that balance that companies are going to have to walk as well in terms of staying authentic. And again, let's separate. There's process efficiencies with AI. There's storytelling with AI, right? So we all kind of know and notice, and I'm guilty of that as well, of using AI to just put the content out there that kind of sounds like AI, but oh man, I have no time to fix it. I'll just put it out there because I need to put it out there. But then we lose that authentic voice. And I think younger generations, even though they grew up in the digital age, they long that tape, that film, that old way of working, because they're so digital. Their whole lives have been digital. And what I early on, and like, let's say last year, I was fearful that the younger generation is not going to be able to sense the humanness, through. But I think they're sensing it, which is good. I can't speak to the ones that are just born right now. They're born into AI age. They're going to be, their world is going to be completely different. But those ones that the Gen Zers that are kind of in transition from social media style to AI, I think they still will sense the difference and will choose companies who are more real and relatable versus purely AI storytelling.
I did not know that. So Generation Z, they're actually like, hey, we want authentic. We want real people doing real things, being who they are, right? That kind of stuff. I did not know that.
So I learned that from my daughter. And I said, is it just you? She's like, no, a lot of people in my generation long that. I talk to my son, who's a coder. He doesn't even want to hear me talk about AI. And I keep telling him, you should learn, no, don't bring AI to me. There's still going to be some human element where the coding will be needed. And that's how I learned, I don't know how broadly it is. I don't have the statistics, but just by talking to my children, I sense that, I hear that, and I see that. And I've been in some presentations myself where that message was being delivered too, in some analyst firm presentations. So AI has its place where it's an easy fix for scale. But when it comes to storytelling specifically, that's where I think companies have to be very careful on how they're using AI. Yes, there's amazing visuals. One can create ads at scale. I mean, there's so much crazy and fast way of delivering something that would take, months, from concepting to shooting to animating. And I come from the background of video to distributing, right? That ad, so to say. Now you can do that in a week, so it's still efficient, right? But then you have to see, okay, the ethics boundaries, how real it is, do you want to disclose that? This is the whole other world and conversation to talk about. We're not going to go there.
Okay, so Loretta, let's go in. Let's use emphasis. Okay, AI, if it's done well, when it's done well, it allows us to be more human, right? We can slow down. You have time to make whatever video. You have time to go meet somebody because the AI is doing the things that AI can do well. But let's not get sucked into whatever it is, that rabbit hole where we become like the Borg on Star Trek, where we become more machine than human. Let's do the opposite. Let's use the AI to become more human, more time. Like the whole idea, like I grew up, I'm a Generation X, and imprinted on my brain is I work like a factory worker, okay? And it's like, you want more, you do more active hours, not healthy, not a good. Why not? Why can't a person like totally contribute, prosper, come into their own unique gifts 30 hours a week, have more time to be human, right?
Yes.
Versus a lot of us business owners, 40, 50, 60 hours a week and easily, right?
I agree with you with that 100%.
It's a key point. Let's not lose. Let's use this to be more human. Slow down. Find out why are you here? What is it? What really matters? Where does your business fit into that, including the financial freedom piece? Why is that important to you? Because when I'm in the factory mindset, back on the first mountain, I didn't have time for that, right?
Yeah.
So the people that if they feel safe, the leadership, the way you describe, more are likely to take the steps, crawl, walk, run. They're going to need regular stuff, and the ones who aren't going to step, you got to move on.
Yeah, and I recently did a presentation here in Las Vegas at the B2B Marketing Expo, and one of the statistics I found was that 95% of AI projects still fail because of lack of governance and lack of workflow, sort of systematic workflow documentation. So everybody is on that, FOMO, right? Fear of losing out on AI, but nobody's really stepping back and thinking, okay, what do I want to achieve with it? What do I need to fix right now so that when I do implement AI efficiencies, it works?
Process. What's the third
Presence.
Presence. What does that mean?
Presence. That comes from my TV background and my marketing side. So I have two brains. One of them is chief of staff, people and process, and another one is marketing, visibility, impact. What are we doing, to bring that presence out? So I look at, those two kind of sides of the brain together, because you can't really have an effective presence if your internal infrastructure is broken. So if you don't have the right people to achieve that presence, if you don't like the right workflows, the right tools inside the organization to push that presence out, and vice versa, when you're present and your presence is high, let's say as a leader, as a company, then it shows that everything is working smoothly inside the organization.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Okay, give an example where presence is really working. Somebody owner of a business, whatever it is, and we'll do the opposite as well. So I want to illustrate this.
Yeah. So I think one way Elon Musk realized the power of presence is that his own presence, right? So he fired his own PR firm because he knew his own thoughts, his own way of being a leader with authority drives, visibility to the company. And when I work with companies and leaders, I don't promise, billions of dollars. My promise is, more visibility, more authority, more impact. That's what I look at. Are you visible? How much authority in the industry do you have? Does your company participate in industry events, where you bring more eyeballs to you, and vice versa? Are your leaders out there, speaking that will by extension bring visibility to your company, right? As a leader of that company. Elon Musk to me is like his own brand, right? He knows what he's doing and he doesn't need PR firm to help build out his authority. Now, companies who are, for example, from presence perspective, I immediately notice what's broken inside is when I see cluttered messaging, not clear messaging, or the color scheme is all broken. They use platforms to reach their audiences where their audiences might not necessarily are hanging out. Their leadership is not visible. These are sort of external cues that when I start working with somebody, I immediately go and check it out. It's like, what does the presence look like? because that's immediate indication to me what could be broken inside the organization. And then I use a different AI tools to further dig deep from the presence perspective, understand, that the customer sort of base for that company, the competitor base for that company, where I build a little bit more of a rounder picture for myself. And then when I start engaging with the company, I have a specific questionnaire that's very lengthy for self-assessment, right? How do leaders themselves see inside the organization from presence, process, people perspective? And then I see the gaps that they identify. Once I have start having conversations and connecting all the dots inside the organization, I start seeing, deeper as well. So to me, presence, what's externally, to me specifically, talks what could be broken internally or what could be lacking internally.
Yeah, that's huge. It's like people and process, I think pretty familiar, right? And there's different levels of expertise, but most people, when you come into it, most business owners, so some idea of how they approach people, process, they kind of know how they operate. They have clear playbooks for process or not. Presence is something different.
Yes.
It's internal, like with employees, how am I showing up? Leaders are showing up, and it's external,
Exactly.
right?
It's both.
With potential customers and vendors and maybe strategic partners, and maybe I'm raising capital, and how do I show up, right, in a way? Tell us, it's a new concept. Can we unpack that a little bit more, and then we'll connect it back to AI, using AI effectively.
Yeah.
Can you go a little bit deeper?
Yes. So presence, to me, or the way I describe it, is the two peas in the pod. So it's an executive presence and company presence, and both of them influence each other. So either if the executive is more present, he or she by default pulls the company visibility forward. And if the company is more present, is more visibly aligned, the story more aligned, it shines the light on the executive as a default, right? So the two always, in my world, in my brain, work together. You can't have just executive presence or just, a company presence that's aligned. They have to be complementary to each other. Now, how do you achieve the right presence? It's multiple layers, right? It's through PR activities, through social activities, aligned brand storytelling and visual brand storytelling, because you can have the right story, but if your visuals are all over the place, then it's a disconnect, right? If you're not talking in the right language to your customers, it's a disconnect. All of these build the presence that, audiences, or I should say your customers, connect with. So if you're visible on stage and you tell the story, that's the same story they see when they go to the company website, that's that much more impactful. Versus an executive is saying something on stage and you go to the website and it's a complete mess, then it's a disconnect. So all of that builds the presence, like I said, thought leadership, PR strategies, social media, storytelling, different mediums of storytelling is what gives that impression. Now, adding the layer of AI, do you have your AI visibility strategy? Are you appearing as an authority in the AI generated answers? That's also a different type of presence now, right? Because people have stopped clicking into websites for more information. They read up their, write-ups generated by Gemini or whichever platform they use, and they have the answers and they move on, or they continue chatting, or they continue asking questions on that same thread. So click-through rates to the website have gone down and will probably continue going down because you are now quoted as an authority in your AIs, or in search engine AI summaries. Wow. So that's a different kind of presence now. Now you have to think about your personal brand. Who are you as an authority? How can you appear in those write-ups as an expert, right? And how does your company appear as a resource for those who are looking for your solutions?
But that really changes how we show up, right? What we put out to show up a certain way to be more effective in the marketplace. That's something. And even something like AdWords don't work as much because who goes to Google?
Yeah, Google is Google.
Right.
They have their own algorithms, and LinkedIn is also LinkedIn. They also have their own algorithms. So LinkedIn has definitely gone more heavy on the video part of things, definitely more prominent focus on that medium. But I believe a lot of experts and industry thought leaders are still not optimizing much on that medium, because I think in the AI age specifically, yes, you can generate your own video through the picture and voices and so forth for efficiency. But I think people and customers are going to look for you as an authentic person, the real person. And video, I think, will still hold quite a bit of legs when you're appearing live. You and I, for example, are having a real conversation
Yeah.
and you can hear us talk how we talk without the weird lip movements and eye
Yeah.
movements, right? So I think video should skyrocket in my view, especially in personal branding, storytelling.
Yeah, video big a lot. That's what I watch. If I want to check somebody else, I don't want to go read their website. I don't want to go read something they probably. I want to see them, how they
Yeah.
talk, how they put it across, who they're interacting with, and so it kind of pulls some of this together. So there's like define the outcomes of the company wants from the AI, people, process, being present. Where do you see companies like really getting stuck, really messing things up on this?
I think they rush into AI too fast, because like I said earlier, is this fear of missing out on AI that
Hmm.
exists because all you hear is, AI replacing people, we're doing everything at scale. There's only one person company. Who's going to be the next unicorn by having only one person company? So you hear that language all the time, and then you're like, well, I have to do something about AI. But I think those who will win will pause and look at it strategically, and then they will beat the competition by being strategic versus just focusing only on the tactics of AI.
Yeah, so too fast. I got to move. Tiny
Yeah.
object. Somebody's doing stuff. Be a lot of business owners, like especially privately owned businesses. The owner is just the wheelbarrow's full. They got things going on. They might hear something and want to jump on the latest tool. But so I'm gonna go. I want to see what you think about this. I think businesses need a guide. I think they need a right expert, and I do think there's a tremendous value. Like people inside the business, they're already consumed by whatever process, momentum, whatever's going on inside the business. And the idea of I need to get 10% of my time for this new thing, AI, how to use AI effectively, and it's all this stuff where people and cleaning up processes before we put AI into it. I think that's a lot to ask for somebody who's internal. Like, hey, with
Yeah.
everything else you're doing, here's
Yeah.
50 pounds more. So I'm going to say it's got to be somebody external. It's got to be somebody, the more times they've done it, like the external guide, external expert, external advisor, the more time they've done it, if they're good, if they do, they sharpen their own playbook. And then they know how to adapt it to that company. I almost think that's essential. And I think companies that try to do everything internal, like, hey, we're entrepreneurs, we just shoot from the hip and do it internal. I think they're gonna lag, and it probably won't be the end of the world, but they're gonna lag behind other people in the marketplace moving differently, and maybe they lose a competitive advantage. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
So first of all, doing it all internally is impossible because none of the companies right now have AI experts inside the companies. It's even impossible. There could be people passionate, like we talked earlier. There could be
Yeah.
people passionate about AI who would just drive that initiative forward inside the organization. But you can't assume that people who are running the business know how to think about AI strategically inside the organization that they're working at. It's
I
impossible.
don't think so.
You have to work with people who either understand AI solutions and be them as guides, somebody who understands, the infrastructure, what the needs are for AI to be
Mhm.
efficient, to work with those. And obviously what a lot of business leaders and owners look at is like, well, how much is it going to cost me, right? To have this
Yeah.
guy, this person, right? There's always that factor. But unless you do it, you're going to be falling behind because somebody in your field, your competitor, will invest, will do it, and they will beat you. And that's going to be
Yeah.
the thing.
And here, cost, return, that kind of stuff. Here's the thing: any company that's investing in something like this, it's got to generate its own money pretty quickly, right? There's got to be a tangible benefit. Oh, more money in the bank, so it's got to be self-funded on some level. Maybe I got to prime the pump, put something in, get it going. I want to start seeing on a timeline something's coming back.
Yeah.
So these programs have got to be self-funded. Where oh man, we did double the company, triple the company, and we still have 10 people that we used to consume all their time
Yeah.
doing just
ROI, I think, with AI is probably going to be easier to show because AI really solves these mundane problems that a lot of us still don't want to do, right? But we have to
Mhm.
do them. So you have to convert then, okay, either I as an employee do this mundane task every day, or I build out a process that my AI tool can be trained off, and then I can hand it off and be much more productive or more creative or supporting the customer better or having a conversations with the customer when they visit or call us. That's what that value is going to be. And this is very convertible in terms of ROI, because you gain customers trust by delivering a more quality support,
Yeah.
or engagement with them.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. And I'll go a step further on this. I'll say, I don't know, maybe it's just that my standards are whatever they are. I'm a 1 out of 20 subject matter expert 1 out of 20 to me is worth working with. I think 1 out of 10%, they don't meet the mark for me personally. So definitely for anybody looking at getting, the expert help, sort through it a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost what you said a moment ago, go slow, don't go too fast. Go slow, vet people. Because if you bring in the right person and they're really successful in that first project, I mean, look, let's keep going,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you want them to do the second, third, fourth thing and just kind of help you really. We're at a tipping point. I think we're going through a second renaissance. And the more we get to that tipping point, like organizationally and in our own lives, the better. And so vetting the right guide, right expert, right
Yeah.
advisor, doing the
Yeah.
first thing well, and then keep going.
Yeah. There's so many tools out there that call these themselves AI solutions, and they just add AI into their copywriting, into the name of the company. They rebrand with AI in place. And it's very difficult sometimes to choose the tool knowing that this tool will exist 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And we have to keep that in the back of our minds as well when we're implementing tools. You can't know right now what's going to last because
Yeah.
everybody is riding this wave. And there's only one nuance that's a little bit different from this AI solution to that AI solution. Which one is going to win? You don't know. So you have to also assume a little bit of risk in implementing the solution. Let's say if down the road that solution is not going to be available, but there's going to be a swap or a better or something else that you can swap to, right? So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's not going to be the system you use for 20 years. It's going to be it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Loreta, what is if somebody wants to talk to you and kind of explore possibilities? What is the best way for them to get hold of you?
Yeah, you can visit my website, loreta.today, Loreta spelled with one T. You can find a lot of different information there about what I do, how I look at everything before AI layer even comes into place. And then I do hang out on LinkedIn. So if somebody who's listening or watching this podcast, reaches out and mentions, "Hey, Kirk, Financial Freedom Guy podcast," I will accept the invitation. So I post content on LinkedIn. I have to get back on track with that, but that's my platform too.
That's great. And we have a WhatsApp group, using AI
Oh, that's right.
effectiveness. I say we, like you and I are both in there. We do this stuff, and so that could be another way to come in and interact.
Agreed.
This is definitely a good area. I see companies being very like ad hoc, active, approach versus something that amounts forethought. So, Loretta, I love what you laid out. I know when we first spoke that you have something, and so we've been in these different groups collaborating. I'm glad we're at this point to walk through how you're approaching things that help business owners.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to talk about it, Kirk.
Thank you so much. And I will see you very soon.